Hey friend, welcome to Conversations with Pela. I'm Pela. Let's just jump into it. Today's episode is brought to you by Utah Grown. You can go to utahgrown.co to find out if you have a qualifying medical condition. If you would like to get into the Utah Medical Cannabis Program, all of the steps, all of the entry or the barriers to entry are listed there, and you can know what it takes for you to be able to participate. Utah Grown also offers education and guidance for medical professionals who are interested in being a part of the Utah Medical Cannabis Program as a QMP or just being able to issue medical cards. Go to utahgrown.co to find out more for your own education today. Let's get started. Let's jump into it. I know today's a slow news day because my feed has basically been what's going on at all my friends' houses. And most days it's just news after news after news. I try to keep all of my social media feeds very much on what's happening in the world or what I think is fun, but not really the goings on of my neighbors. I just don't have it that way. And so now I've learned that some of you have broken off your engagements, some of you have gotten engaged. And the crazy thing is, some of the things that I am learning from today's slow news day, as in news outlets aren't saying a whole lot about anything, nothing must have happened overnight. But the things I'm learning about you guys, I'm like, ooh, ooh, you live down the street. I didn't, oh, one day, one day, I will probably talk about somebody else's business. But today's not that day because I think maybe some of you are hurting a little bit. So I'm going to leave it alone. Yesterday was the breaking news. Was it yesterday? No, it was Monday. Was the breaking news that Ryan Clark was terminated from ESPN. And there was a whole list of other people. And then it turns out yesterday he was back on ESPN. He was doing I think it has something to do with college ball. The thing about all of this stuff happening with ESPN with Ryan Clark, I like Ryan Clark just as a person. I don't know his football career. I do know that he did go to the Super Bowl. I think he was a Steelers. And you know what? These are all things I could have looked up before I turned the camera on, but I didn't. So what I'm saying is that I don't know Ryan Clark as a football player. I know that he did play football, and I know that he did well. I remember a few years back, there's a whole bunch of beef between all these NFL players who were starting their own podcasts, and I can't remember the name of the guy, but I think his name was Brandon. Brandon somebody, he was mad that nobody wanted to partner with him. And if I can remember correctly, it was like he was mad Shannon Sharp didn't want to partner with him. He was mad that T.O. didn't want to partner. Or am I thinking wrong? Because I know that Mr. Owens is good friends with Shannon. So maybe it was Ocho Cinco didn't want to do anything with him. I remember he was upset at the guys on the pivot, which would have been Ryan Clark and Channing and the quiet guy who I like, but I can never remember his name because he's so quiet. And maybe even Cam Newton. He was mad about that. And that's how, like, because he made so much noise, then I started paying attention to what everybody else was doing. Also, I used to have a massive crush on Shannon Sharp. I'm over it because he never did call me. Why? Because I never did ask him to actually. That's my own problem. Anyway, so I was thinking about the Ryan Clark situation. He was back on the air less than 24 hours after being laid off by ESPN. Ryan Clark will be back on the network covering HBCU football at MEAC Media Day. I'm pretty sure, not 100%. Let me say I'm 73% sure that Ryan Clark being back on ESPN yesterday was something that was probably either pre-recorded or something that was agreed to in advance, and not something that came up on the fly the next day. But regardless, kudos to Ryan Clark because I think I honestly feel like he's going to land well no matter what, and he does have that show, The Pivot, and I think they just put out a whole big episode around UFC and not UFC, but see, this is where my ignorance shows. I'm not a big wrestling fan, so I don't remember the name of Maybe it is the UFC. I thought that that was whoever Dana White works with, because that was their episode they put out yesterday. Anyway, all that ranting about Ryan Clark is not where I was going with this. Cam Newton also got fired from ESPN yesterday or on Monday. He was part of the layoffs, or on Tuesday, I guess. And I haven't heard a word out of his camp. But a couple things I want to point out. Ryan Clark, Cam Newton, both have very established brands and very established platforms, which means that no matter what happens, they are going to land well, because they are not dependent on the networks to drive their projects essentially. And of course, then that makes me always think, like, what are you establishing for yourself? What are we doing for ourselves that is not dependent on somebody else? Like, for example, right now, if you're watching this live, this is going to show up on Facebook or YouTube. But if you catch any clips later, the clips always originate at IG. Guess what I don't own? I don't own Facebook, YouTube, IG, none of that. And I kind of feel like if people want to be successful in a world where somebody else can turn off the power, like can turn off the lights and end what you've got, they've got to be thinking bigger than just doing everything they do on somebody else's platform. It's almost like when you work a 9 to 5, which so many of us do, right? The power of what you can earn is in the hands of your employer, unless you find other ways to bring income in. I don't know. I think it's interesting because I'm looking at Cam. He hasn't said anything yet. To me, Cam Newton is a huge personality, but not as palatable as Ryan Clark. Cam has some interesting views on relationships and women and things of that nature that make me say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But he is still successful in the realm that he exists in. And that's like, I mean, you can't, no matter if I agree with him or not, can't ignore that he's got something going that is working way better than anything I've got going. That I think is the thing I always have to admit. No matter how much I'm not super digging what you're putting out, if somebody is and you're doing better than me, I got to give you props for that because you've cracked a code somewhere. You know what I mean? Um, but I guess that thought was just in my head. Like, these two men both have very established brands, personal brands, and platforms. So they're not going to be tied up if, ESPN is letting them go. Also, things that I thought are interesting. I didn't even realize how many sports networks there are because I don't really watch sports. I like to hear what the athletes have to say about different things, but I don't actually consume a lot of sports. But I was thinking about what ESPN is doing because they kept saying they were merging with the NFL network. And no matter how many times I read that, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. You are the NFL network. Then I finally took enough time to stop and say, what do they mean they're merging with the NFL network? And this is a list of layoffs. The NFL network is a totally different network. And because I don't consume sports on that level, it's never occurred to me that there is an entirely different sports network. I always just think ESPN is the umbrella for all things. And so they're saying that the merge of the two companies is really, there's too many redundant positions, meaning that maybe they already have analysts coming in that they feel like will still be able to pull an audience and do this and that. Or they already have a crew that can run things because you don't need two crews to run the same show. And then, of course, is it Pat McCaffrey, I think, whose current contract, I think, is 30 million and might be jumping to 60 million. I really think that the layoffs allow for that money to be freed up so it can go directly into his contract. Um, the McCaffrey name that I know is Virus Protection. I don't know Pat McCaffrey. I have no idea if he's actually interesting or not. He must be because they're willing to pay him 30 million, possibly 60 million. And my initial thought again is, why would you pay anybody that much? But if a network or if any company is willing to pay you $60 million a year, clearly you're pulling in at least 10 times that. That is just my assumption. My assumption is that most companies, if they hire a position, that that position can bring in at least 10 times what you pay out. I think that that could make sense. Maybe 10 times is bigger than what it is, but I have to look at it for my own curiosity. I just wonder. I wonder what the return on investment is supposed to be. How about this? If you guys have time, why don't you look up how much Pat McCaffrey brings back to ESPN? Because if it's way over 60 million, I will not be surprised. But also, kudos to that man for making himself that valuable. And then there's other things that I am thinking of this morning. Uh, I I did mention yesterday that I have an upcoming interview at an album release party, and this is for Kyle Prater. He is a former NFL player. So that's it's easy to know people without knowing anything about like the thing they love to do. But with that said, I keep thinking about this upcoming interview, which whenever things are, whenever I have an interview, I do think about it for a long time. But Kyle was a former NFL player, and now he has turned artist. Um, he's in media, he's in music, he's in film. He's doing the things that he wants to do, that he loves. And I kind of wonder, what do you do? What do I do? What do we do when the thing that kind of defines us for an era comes to an end? Because I think all things come to an end. How do we pivot? What do we do? What is the answer? Like, how do you look at your life and say, well, I thought for the rest of my life I was going to be a football player, or I thought for the rest of my life I was going to be an actress, or whatever it is. And if those things come to an end, what is the battle that we all go through? I mean, individually, to redefine ourselves, to find a new direction. I just I just think that it's challenging. And even though we talk about it, it doesn't ever feel like we talk about it in a way that's relatable to the next person. Maybe somebody has talked about it that way, where they have framed uh, the redefinition of themselves, the evolution of themselves in a way that is so palatable to other people, where they're like, oh, this is not scary. This is not the worst thing in the world. I, I wish I had a real solid answer in my mind as to why change can be so scary, why reinventing yourself can be so scary. I wonder what it is that we hold on to so strong that just makes it hard to turn. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer. But I am very curious to find out more about Kyle. And so if you would like to come, if you would like to check out Kyle Prater's album release party, the Eventbrite link is available. I think the easiest way right now is that if you're watching this and you want to go, just DM me or message me on Facebook. It doesn't matter how you get in touch with me. I will send you the link, and you can attend that event and listen to the album with us and ask your own questions if you really want to, because evolution is universal, but how we do it is not. How we do it, how we find whatever it takes that allows us to turn a corner. Sometimes I think it's rock bottom. Sometimes I think it's just um, a moment of clarity. I don't know. Could be a million different things. But if you are curious and you want to be part of the discussion, please definitely join us at Kiln, Kiln, on July 28th in the evening. Again, if you want information on the Eventbrite, so you can reserve your tickets, just hit me up and I'll send you the link as quickly as possible. I'll also post the link in the description that I put up. It should already be in the description. That's what I'll say. Okay, I think it's time to get ready and go to work. Catch you on the flip side.